I want to talk about with both of you guys this other story, which keeps kicking along, and it's really important, I think, because Anthony Albanese, of course, just had that massive 6-day trip to China. I don't think we should let that slide by, and I don't think we should let that issue die out, because this relationship and the way he's changing this relationship with China has huge potential to impact everything that we do here in Australia over the long run. I just want to play a little bit of Ted O'Brien, the Shadow Treasurer on Sunday Agenda here, speaking about Anthony Albanese's trip and how he has become almost a cheerleader for China on this. Have a look.
So this entire thing, I think, speaks to weakness. The Prime Minister is more a cheerleader than he is actually a leader, and this is the problem.
A cheerleader for China?
No, a cheerleader for Australia. I'm not suggesting he's doing the bidding of China, but unfortunately it does go to weakness, Andrew. And it again, look, if it was 1 or 2 days and then he went to other countries, great. But 6 days in country, you have to ask yourself, what was achieved by that?
Michael Kroger, I want to talk about this. I want to get your opinion on this here, because the Liberals are in sort of a tricky position on this, because I get all of the national security implications of this, and I get all the national sovereignty implications of this. But again, the Liberals had a tough time at the last election on the issue of our relationship with China. They were, I think, unfairly portrayed as attacking Chinese Australian voters, when I think it was just the opposite. But how does the coalition navigate this issue successfully? You've had Angus Taylor out there making comments about Taiwan. You've had a bit of confusion around that. How does the coalition sell this issue that this is a real national sovereignty concern and that it's great to trade with China, but we have to also not lose our own voice?
Well, honesty is always the best policy, and that was an insipid trip to China by the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost, John Cleese-like, that famous episode where he's got the German tourist in the restaurant there at Fawlty Towers, and he's told not to mention the war. So Albanese goes over there to China. He can't mention Russia. He can't mention the South China Sea. He can't mention the Uyghurs. He can't mention Hong Kong. He can't, talk about their support for Russia in the Ukraine war. Can't talk about net zero. Can't talk about the Chinese government building dozens of coal-fired power stations that Albanese opposes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was, don't mention any of these major issues without, a very significant trading partner. So I think the point is you have to be open and honest. And the starting point for us is to simply make it clear to people that our argument has never been with the Chinese people. It's only ever been with the Communist government of China, who are a terribly repressive regime. And to try and suggest anything other than that is wrong-headed. That doesn't mean we have to confront them at every opportunity, but it's a terribly repressive regime in China, and the whole world knows it. So tiptoeing around these issues is the wrong thing for Australia to do. And as I said, gee, Albanese looked weak, didn't he? He just looked incredibly insipid over there in China. He did a great disservice to Australia, I think.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think insipid is a fantastic word, and I thought, that sums up exactly when the Prime Minister was talking about how wonderful it was that they had a cover band play a bunch of Paul Kelly and Powderfinger hits from him. I mean, my God. But,
yeah, right.
Lee, on this, too, the real dangers of the CCP regime, and let's be very clear, we're talking about the regime here, that was highlighted by a story out of Europe that's just been breaking in the last day or so, where Huawei, which is the telecommunications infrastructure firm that we thankfully banned from doing our 5G network, but there's a whole scandal around bribery and access in Europe, and it just goes to show, I think, Lee Hansen, the ways in which that government, that regime, is determined to get its way in Western nations.
Correct. And they're trying to get their tentacles here into Australia. We need our Prime Minister to stand strong, speak the truth, and obviously stand up on these issues. We know what China's agendas are, and it's dangerous. So we need to stand strong and obviously make sure that this does not happen in our country.